Hey everybody, this is Skull from Old Skull Sound, and we have our guest here today.
Hello, I am Alex Elias of Dilemma. Fun fact, I probably should not have picked such a generic band name. Good luck Googling me.
Epic stare off.
That was the whole
Okay.
fact.
We can let's take this off. All right, so let's start off with the bit that everybody likes to talk about: gear. What's your
Ooh.
favorite stuff to use? What makes the audio giblets turn around on your end?
What makes the flavor crystal sizzle?
Yeah,
Ready
bruh.
for the secret sauce? The secret cocktail? I don't know. What's in it for me? That's some privileged information there. Well, I suppose if I had to divulge some dirty secrets, I suppose the answer, sort of a cop out answer, is distortion. So I will upgrade that answer to slightly less of a cop out, which is autotune and distortion in that order. Now, Autotune is a highly controversial plugin. I just would like to clarify that the usage of Autotune that I employ as Dilemma is a creative effect. It is not a fix my voice effect, although that helps too. It's basically the Daft Punk effect to try and make your voice sound more futury, and it's very popular among European DJs and rappers, but I do not use it quite as much as the rappers. They have it on max settings. I have it on less than that.
When you said auto tune and bad rep, the first thing that came to mind, his music was pretty good, but when T Pain came out,
Yes.
everybody wanted to be T Pain, but they
Actually, it's
they could
funny
not
that you
do it.
mention him. In my first album, which I released in sort of a soft release in 2012 called EP, I know, very original. The autotune effect that I used on that album is actually from T-Pain, and it is called the
No
T-Pain.
way.
It's called the T-Pain effect, and it was free. And actually, no, I should say it wasn't free. My copy of it was free. So every 15 minutes, it would make white noise, and I would have to bounce it to audio so that I could keep using it for free. But yeah, I loved that sound. I've had it on all my albums. And then I believe it was 2019, Charlie XCX. She came out with an album where she used pretty much the same vocal effect. And I thought, I suppose my thought process was in this order: hey, you stole that. We should get married.
Trying to think here. Let's see. I remember my question. All right. So you said that it's not to fix your singing; it's as a effect. So, what would
Correct.
be some artists that have used it as an effect that you really enjoy?
Well, the person who actually created the sound effect, who is often undercredited for this, is Cher on her song Believe, which you may now have stuck in your head for the rest of your life since I brought it up. Um, she's the first person to employ autotune as a creative effect to give her voice that sort of after trail and the notes just sort of blending into one another. So I really loved her usage of that. Um, but I believe your question was which artists do I really enjoy who use it as a creative effect?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say the answer, they're a little bit obscure. They're called Thyx. It is a industrial side project of a
Hmm.
band called Mind in a Box. Um, Mind in a Box and Thyx by extension are known for their usage of autotune in creative ways. There's a European dubstep artist, not exactly dubstep, it's like dub and grime, called Skream. He does a lot of work with this guy, Sam something. It's on the tip of my tongue. Probably won't come to me. But this Sam guy, when he works with Skream, is always using that effect. Um, There's really not too many. There's Charlie XCX, like I mentioned. Grimes uses it sometimes, and then everybody else just sort of uses it in like one song here and there. There aren't too many artists who employ it with any sort of regularity, and even
Hmm.
I try not to employ it too much because it doesn't suit every song. And while it certainly is a hallmark of a unique sound, I do believe that my music has a unique sound even without it, so I don't want to go
Hmm.
crazy with it.
Right on. So, in regards to your unique sound, from the time that Dilemma was very first a thing to now, and the years of experience that you've gathered with using different effects and sounds and stuff like that, how has it evolved? Um, and how do you look back upon your old sound?
Hmm. That is an excellent question, sir. Um, let's see. How has my sound changed? Well, I do believe it has changed. Um, I suppose I've introduced more new metal and industrial rock influences into some of my more recent albums and releases, which is to say, basically, I added more dilemma-ness into my dilemma. That is to say, I just went further along the line of what I was already doing.
Hmm.
Basically, I just got better and got more into my own sound. I was like, oh, I do like this sound. I should improve on this. And so I did. But that's not the only aspect. When I started my project as it is now, as Dilemma, this was back in like 2011, 2012. The music that I was listening to then was primarily synth pop. And I had previously listened to future pop, dubstep, a lot of vocal dubstep. But I was mostly into synth pop at that time. I didn't even know that dark pop was a thing back then, and it's now my favorite genre. And it's something that I listen to quite often. I believe you did a previous interview with Arcane Strain. His music is also classified as dark pop. What is dark pop? Dark pop is dream pop that happens to sometimes employ industrial instrumentation, bringing dream pop slightly closer to a gothier feel. But other than that, it's virtually indistinguishable from dream pop. So yeah, I really like dark pop. And one thing that's interesting about dark pop is I would say 95% of all dark pop is female vocalists, high soprano female vocalists. It just sort of that's what it is. So when somebody asks me what genre is my music, I say dark pop slash electronic rock. It is both of those things. You really can't define my music without both of those things because there are certain staples of each genre that my music would not be considered part of simply because I
Hmm.
have other aspects into them. So yeah, once I started getting into dark pop, I think I added more gothy, haunting, ethereal influences into my music. I always wanted these things, and they were always sort of on the back burner. But the synth pop just sort of took over. So I'm glad that my music has come into itself like that.
Is there any like TV shows, movies where you felt dark pop slash electric rock really elevated the viewing experience? Like, is there anything that stood out? Like,
Absolutely. Um, so this is not dark pop per se,
mhm.
but again, all of these something plus pop genres in electronic music are so similar that for all intents and purposes, they might as well be dark pop. There's an artist called Ruelle. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Um,
Mm-mm.
Ruelle, I believe she makes, I guess I would call it electropop, but it's really epic and cinematic. So I don't even know what exact genre you would call it. Um, but Ruelle happens to be featured on like more than a dozen TV shows and movies. Her music is just placed so often, and I don't know if she personally loves fantasy and sci-fi, but her music has been featured as the theme song on several fantastic fantasy and sci-fi shows, including off the top of my head, The 100 and Shadowhunters. I know she did the theme song for Shadowhunters, and her music to describe it, like it has that high pitched, female vocal, like sort of what you would come to expect of dream pop and dark pop. But her music specifically has a very strong cinematic component. What I mean by that specifically is when you think of a movie trailer and you hear those really epic, very stop start staccato, massive.
Mm-hmm.
Her music has all of that. So it's very stop starty, her music, kind of like dubstep, except it never actually goes into a dubstep beat. It's very slow and methodical with a lot of even breaks to just sort of cut through the silence. These really massive hits, very cinematic. I keep using that word because that's really the only way you would describe her sound.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a big influence. Not influence, sorry. I do believe that her music elevated all of the shows that she was brought into. And I have contemplated scoring for film and TV.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think that's the sort of thing where I don't want to set out to do that. I want that to be something that I'm brought in on, because if I
Mm-hmm.
had to set out to do that, then I'd have to teach myself how to compose and play the piano. And I don't want to do those things.
So, what would you say is a show or movie that sparked that thought? What was something where you're like, that'd be really cool if I could make the soundtrack to that, or not so much that thought, but you're like, I wonder what my own soundtrack would sound like.
There was a show. This is super obscure. I'd be super surprised. I just said super twice. I'd be very surprised if anybody had seen or heard of this. It was called Damien. And
Mm-hmm.
this was back in, I think, 2016. This guy, Bear McCreary, did the theme song for that song. Bear McCreary has subsequently gone on to have an incredibly successful career as a composer. I think he scored Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. He scored all these really huge shows recently. Like, his career has skyrocketed. But on Damien, he laid down the most industrial theme song that has ever graced a TV show. Pure industrial. It was awesome. He had these deep, dark, gritty synths laid over a Gregorian chant with some gothy harmonic minor pads. Basically, it sounded like he was summoning
Nice.
a demon, and the show was all about like demons. As soon as I heard that, I thought, A, I need to check out this guy's other work. B, I need to save that so I could listen to it and maybe use it as a ringtone. And C, I wonder if I could do that.
Awesome. Well, speaking of other artists, if you could collaborate with one, alive or dead, who would it be? And then why is that?
Hmm. Um. Now, I had seen some of your previous interviews, and I know that Arcane Strain, when asked the same question, said Grimes, but he said it before I did. That's only because your interview with him came first, not because he had the idea to work with her first. Um, the fact of the matter is, I have a song where I used her AI technology to lay down like female soprano vocals. I have not
Hmm.
yet officially released this song because currently, through her website, if you want to distribute the song, you have to pay her in perpetuity. And while I have no problem, paying her, I would want to wait at least until my music is in a place where I could theoretically make that money back at some point.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm a little underground, so it's on hold, but the song's really cool. I would love to work with her as an actual person and not just as an AI, um, because I love the atmosphere that her music evokes. She is quintessential dark pop. Like, she is the queen of dark pop, just as some might say Nine Inch Nails is like the king of industrial as a bracket genre. Now,
Hmm.
there are plenty of other dark pop artists whom I really, really love, but I feel like working with her would bring the most success um, to my music because she's so popular. So, I could do a collaboration with Purity Ring or Magdalena Bay or Fantagram, and it might gain some traction. But like if Grimes released a song with some random artist called Dilemma, people would be like, who the hell is Dilemma? And be like, oh, okay. So yeah, probably Grimes. Gonna take 10 seconds now to quickly contemplate if there's anybody else alive or dead that I would really want to work with. Hild, please. I am thinking. I'm sure there are, but I think I'm almost out of 10 seconds and nobody's jumped out at me.
If you have any to add, we'll add it to the description, so I'll make a quick footnote.
Addendum section.
Let's see, Grime, and then slash TBA.
Okay, I got one. I would really like to collaborate with Battle Tapes. Again, I think this is another band that Arcane Strain really likes. Our music is quite similar. So Battle Tapes is an electronic rock band, and they do both things really, really well, really seamlessly. So electronic rock is a pretty small genre. It's not necessarily a new genre. However, it has only sort of gained traction as a big genre in the last couple of years. But some of you may recall Muse came out with an album, Absolution, back in like 2001. A lot of the songs on that album were 100% electronic rock. But electronic rock wasn't such a big thing back then because it was sort of dwarfed by industrial rock. Now, electronic rock is industrial rock, but softer. There aren't as many new metal influences. The influences just sort of come more from synth pop and hard rock. There's not any real screaming in it. So Battle Tapes essentially does what Royal Blood does, right? Like just sort of dancey, modern, groovy rock. But whereas Royal Blood is primarily, I can't say acoustic because they use electric guitars, but they're not really employing too many synths, at least for their leads. They do have background synths, but what Battle Tapes does that's differently, that makes their music electronic rock and not just, hard rock with a dancey groove, is I believe they use hard synths, not like soft synths, and they double all their guitars with a synthesizer, which is another parallel with Royal Blood because they double their bass with a guitar. So so Royal Blood doubles their bass to a guitar, and Battle Tapes doubles their guitar with a synthesizer that's buzzy, fuzzy, and crunchy, and just sort of makes it this huge sound. And so their music is deceptively simple. You've got this really groovy electric guitar backed with a synth, so it's basically accounting for the lead and the bass, and then just really catchy pop-centric vocals over that. And there's really not too many other bells and whistles, and they just do it so seamlessly. It's like perfection. And I tried to use one of their songs as a reference when I was mastering, or I should say attempting to master one of my songs, and I could not for the life of me match their volume because my songs are just too busy. And it's very hard to match the volume of something that's so busy and has so much going on to something that's really just vocals, drums, guitar, and gigantic synth that is almost indistinguishable from the guitar. Like that guitar synth that they have throughout all their songs is so loud and upfront in the mix that if you have anything else on top of that, it's going to get completely buried. And so I would love to work with them so that I could learn the art of less is more, because that is something that I've been trying to teach myself through making more music over time. And my mom constantly nagging at me, your music's too busy. It's like, I know. So yeah, I'd like to work with them because I think it would be a really good learning experience, and I think we'd make some really badass beats.
Hell yeah, man. What about a live show where you've made new connections? So not so much, go into this. I mean, I guess it could be the same artist, but has there ever been a concert, festival, live show, anything where you made a meaningful connection within music?
I would like to say yes, but I would be lying. So no.
You were just having too much of a good time at the show, huh?
I was probably trying to work up the courage to talk to a girl and ended up not doing that or making music connections.
Right on. Oh, is there a venue or a city that you would like to tour or play a live show at?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to go to the industrial capital of the world. Don't quote me on that, Berlin. I do believe that most of the music of that genre is very prevalent in Berlin. Wow, I worded that sentence so terribly. They're going to give me a Raz award for worst worded sentence of all time. Um, Worst sentence it is. Yeah, okay. I lost my train of thought because I was speaking out of order. Yeah, so Berlin is where I would like to go to make and play goth and industrial music because that's where it's all at. I know Faderhead only tours in Germany at this point because he said there's the market for this music is just not as big outside of Germany, and he gets all these requests for people to have him from people to have him come to the U.S. LA, New York. And he said there is a scene there for this kind of music, don't get me wrong, but it's just not worth the expense of traveling and paying all the people on my tour, setting up the venues. So if he, as big as he is, has trouble earning any sort of revenue from playing, in the US or other places, then I'm just going to defer to him because he's been doing exactly what I do for 20 plus years. And I would be really lucky and fortunate to be able to even have a fraction of, the success he's had. So yeah, Berlin.
So if you're going to go to Berlin, you have to go to Wave Gothic Treffen. You have to.
Gesundheit. What'd you just say?
Wave Gothic Treffen. It's like the International Gothic Music Festival.
That's a thing?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
didn't know that?
No, is that the thing that Ground to Dust sometimes talks about and went to at one point?
I'm not sure, but it's been on my bucket list for a long time. I know Vampire Freaks had the Triton Festival, and then it's called something else. I
Well,
forgot.
Vampire Freaks every year has a like industrial rave party out in New
Right.
Jersey.
Yeah,
And
that's where it's at now.
okay, yeah. I get the mail. I'm on the mailing list for them because I actually back in 2007 used to frequent that site all the time. That was my MySpace, and I used to talk to pretty much all the emo and scene girls there from all over the country, just like chatting away. Like pretty much everybody with no life in the 90s, or not 90s, 2000s.
Oh man, pre-dial-up, man. 5 minutes
Yeah,
of
no,
message.
I went a little too far back. But yeah, yeah. So I'm on their mailing list, and I always see ads for that. I have not made it out there yet. New Jersey is close and yet so far away.
Yeah, but Wave Gothic Treffen, it's like WAVE, Wave, GOTIK TREFFEN, Wave Gothic Treffen. And then it's every year, biggest international like Gothic music festival. I think Gary Numan
Oh,
played there last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I love me some Gary Newman. I actually saw him
Yeah.
live. That was a cool
He
show.
just toured with Frontline Assembly,
Yeah, I
I
think
think.
again, Ground to Dust. I believe he just saw them very recently. That's a pretty cool
So
tour. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go to Wave Go Tech Treffen. Did I say that right?
I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm just.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I would love to go to there and play there as well.
So, is there a song that you've been burning to cover or to remix?
Yes, it is on my to-do list. Once I get to it, I am very excited to cover "The Promise" by When in Rome. This is
Hmm.
a prominent '80s new wave song. You may know it as wait, how does it go? It's oh, hold on, it's on the tip of my tongue. Um, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know that I'm fair, that I felt that way. But if you wait around a while, I'll make yourself for me. I promise you, I promise you. You know that song?
It sounds familiar,
Yeah,
yeah.
that one. I got the idea to cover that one when I was creating my song for my upcoming album, In Shadows, Stasis. I did the chorus of Stasis. I loved the chorus of Stasis. And I listened to the chorus of Stasis back several dozen times. And I thought to myself, huh, that kind of reminds me of The Promise by When in Rome. And then I thought, huh, maybe I should do a cover of that. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So that's been on my list for a while, ever since I made a chorus that is slightly similar to it. And it's not really similar to it in any capacity. It's just the melodic tendency and the style of the vocals evokes that same vibe. So I recently did a cover for a song called Frozen by Madonna originally. That was off her 1998 album Ray of Light. Now, I have a EP titled Frozen, which I'm planning to release, I believe, sometime in 2025. It's done. It needs to be mastered, but it's pretty much done. You could hear some of the songs if you go to my website, dilemma-music.com. But anyway, what was my point? Yeah, so I did this song Frozen, and I realized that there is a lot of cool things that I could do by adding a dilemma profile to songs that are otherwise a completely different genre. That's the really cool thing about cover songs. People can do one-to-one cover songs. For example, a one-to-one cover song would be what's a good example of a one-to-one cover song where they just they just basically take the same song and they arrange it in the exact same way. They don't change anything. All they're doing is making it themselves. That's a one-to-one cover song. I'm blanking on examples. But then you have genre change cover songs, right? Where you're taking the same song, you're using the same melodies and everything, but you're applying that song to a new genre. And there's some really amazing songs that do that. You know, off the top of my head, you've got Marilyn Manson did a cover of
Sweet Dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, was that the one? I think I was going to go with Personal Jesus, but that one works too.
He's got so many Sweet Dreams, Personal Jesus, and Tainted Love. Just
Tainted
three
Love.
off the top of my
All
head.
three of those. So in that same vein, there is a song that I want to industrialize. That is The Knife by Heartbeat. Or no, Heartbeats by The Knife. Sorry. That is a song from, I think it's from the early 2000s. It's from I think they're a Swedish band. You've probably heard the song before. It's extremely repetitive, but it's really catchy. And I think that it would benefit strongly from a modern sound, a little bit less repetition, and just a little bit more grittiness, which is what I would like to bring to it. I think that song fits really well with the Dilemma brand that I've been creating. But yeah, I'm excited about the process of, let's just stick with industrializing songs that have catchy melodies, that are catchy in of themselves and are not required to be the genre that they were created in. You know what I mean? So I would like to find songs that can be sort of
transformed.
Yeah, exactly. Cut out of their genre and placed into a different genre and see if that benefits them. You know, there's all these TikTokers and Instagrammers now just doing metal covers of everything because they're incredible on the guitar. They can, you know, just quickly do a metal version of this song, that song. It's a little bit more work to do like an industrial cover of things just because you can't just, you know, lay down a guitar track and call it an industrial cover. You have to actually add some synths too. So yeah, I would like to do that, to find some songs. I have a list here of songs I would like to cover. I mentioned those two. One other that I would like to cover is Desert Rose by Sting. That's that one song that he did that had like all those Arabian this is offensive if I call them yodels, but I don't know what they're called. You know, where they had, so there's two singers on it. There's Sting, and then he brought in this Middle Eastern guy who does these absolutely incredible vocals on it. I would probably sample those because it would be like cultural appropriation if I tried to do them myself. But the rest of the song is really cool and really catchy, and I feel like it would be awesome to bring that into sort of a more industrial rock style, just like I did with Frozen.
Do you know that
They're definitely not
it's
yodels.
like a meme? I think the song's called Tunic Tunic. Like he did the music video all by himself. He just like green screened 5 of them.
Sting did this, or some guy did
No,
this?
no, 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 no. It's just some guy, and the song's called Tunic Tunic.
I'm not familiar.
Tunak. It's like
Hmm.
giant meme, but I didn't know if that was on your radar or not.
You
It's
know,
it's
I have somehow managed to make it 33 years without ever really delving into the YouTube rabbit hole. Many,
that's probably
many,
a good thing.
many a devil have tried to tempt and influence me to jump down that rabbit hole with them, down to each circle of hell as you get deeper into that hole. But I have resisted, and hopefully I could stay resisting because I've
It's
got too many other
probably
interests.
one of those things you can't unsee.
So yeah, I say with the nicest way possible, keep your tunak. I do not need that.
Hold on.
Oh boy.
Circle of Hell. I think there's like a trance slash house style song
What style song?
talking about the circles of hell. I gotta find it. I don't remember what it's called.
Well,
I am
speaking
looking.
while you're looking, I'll do a quick plug. Speaking of the circles of hell, Outer Darkness Records has a new project called Ninth Circle, which is the ninth circles of hell. And essentially, Ninth Circle, you could sort of think of it as the Outer Darkness Records house band, although it's
Mm-hmm.
not. That's not exactly what it is. But basically, when multiple artists from our server want to collaborate, and it's more than just two, like it's like 3 or 4 or 5 of us, we will release it under Ninth Circle because otherwise you could just imagine having like 7 artists listed on a song. Nobody wants to see that shit.
God, the Spotify chain would be ridiculous.
Oh, I hate those Spotify chains because, like, let's talk about that for a sec. So, a lot of really great music on Spotify is, credited as multiple artists, right? So you hear that song and you think, I love this song. I want to hear more songs just like this song. So I'm going to check out the music of some of these artists. But you don't know which artist that song sounds like. For all you know, 2 of them are rappers. One of them is just some guy who has one song, and you need to sure to click on the right one to find out which one is the one that you want to click on, but you're clicking on all of them and none of them are the ones you want, and then you're like, wait, did like 5 people who make nothing that has anything to do with anything come together and make exactly what I wanted to hear? So yeah, don't want that.
I believe I'm probably just going to end up
You're a
having to
chicken
find
hawk,
this
son.
later and credit put it in the description. I'll find it. It's like some 90s techno sounding song about like going through the different gates of hell. But if I can find it, I will definitely link that. Let me see here. Let's see here.
Alrighty.
Techno circle hell song. Okay. All right. Let's go back to notes here. So we did cover remix. The burning question. What do you like to do outside of music?
All right. Well, I'm aspiring to be a screenwriter. And actually, we were just recently talking about the 9 Circles of Hell. I have a original screenplay that I've developed, and have been shopping around trying to pitch to various, not to networks. I'm not at that phase yet. I'm pitching to competitions, basically, to try to get my foot in the door as a screenwriter. But the subject matter of this screenplay, without spoiling anything, very much has to do with demonology and hell. Essentially, hell has been bound to Earth, right? And it wants to break free. It wants to be its own realm, right? So The demons are, trying to think of ways that they can, separate, Earth from hell, right? Because hell has just sort of been bound. So yeah, that's sort of one of the aspects of this screenplay. And now, mind you, that is a background aspect. It's a lore aspect, right? So if you're watching the show, it's not just going to be some exposition about how hell has been bound. It's something that the characters will find out in real time because, show it, don't tell it.
Right. I think there was some show not in demonology and being bound, but it was about reapers, and all I can remember is the cover art was like a reaper blowing bubblegum. Do you know the
Doesn't
show I'm
sound
talking about?
No, it doesn't sound familiar to me, but there was a show on Netflix recently, I think it was just canceled, called Warrior Nun. Yes, you heard
Oh
me
god.
correctly. Worst name for a show ever. Quite possibly ever. But Warrior Nun is actually an extremely similar show to the one that I am working on, which has given me really mixed feelings because on one hand, look, there's a market for this kind of show. On the other hand, is like, oh, it got canceled and they don't need that anymore. They want to try new things. So you just have to see. TV goes in cycles, right? I remember
Mm.
when True Blood came out, we were in a vampire cycle. Everybody wanted to do vampires because that was the hot commodity. And then for years there, you had witches. Everybody wanted to do witches. See, witches are back, right? Because we recently have I think going on its like sixth or seventh season, you've got American Horror Story. They recently brought back from Anne Rice. I think they did this show. I don't remember what it's
Interview with the
called.
Vampire.
Well, that's on as well. So vampires are starting to come back, but the same network that does Interview with the Vampire has adapted another book of Anne Rice's about witches. The name of the show is off the top of my tongue, but yeah, there's like 4 or 5 shows about witches right now. So when they
Mm.
get back to demons, I'll start pitching my show again. Because
Is there
it's
any
only a matter of time.
is there any demon character designs from pop culture, video games, movies, any things that you kind of draw inspiration for your writing your
Um,
screenplay? Like, is there a certain look, aesthetic that these people have, or is it just
no,
more a lore base that you're writing?
it's very much lore based.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, budget is a thing, and so that's a lot of shows that have a limited budget deal with demons in terms of possession, in terms of glowing eyes, in terms of disembodied voices that you hear. And if you do
Mm-hmm.
see a demon, it's usually just one. It's not like a whole army of demons because then you would need to be picked up by Netflix or Amazon and have a really big pickup. But there's something psychologically more scary about knowing what the demons look like, but not really seeing them. Like you see them in pictures, you see how terrifying they are. So you know they do look like that, but you're not necessarily seeing them all the time. So the demons in my show, one of them is riding passenger within the antagonist. Um, and you do have some demon fights. Obviously we've got demon fights, but it's like one-on-one demon fights. It's not like these epic Lord of the Rings battles where the whole army of orcs is battling all of the elves. So yeah, it's sort of an action show. I would say it's action slash supernatural, or supernatural
Mm-hmm.
slash action. So it's not like fantasy, where it's just like full on leagues of demons. But if I going back to the root of your question, one aesthetic or style that I personally love, there's a video game that came out years ago now called Warframe. It's very popular, and Warframe it's a sci-fi mecha sort of anime-esque game, but they just have an absolutely incredible aesthetic and design for their mecha, where they're essentially. Have you ever played Magic the Gathering?
I have, I have a
Okay,
few
well,
times.
there's a
Yes.
species in Magic the Gathering called the Phyrexians, and these are sort of like mecha Phyrexians. They're basically imagine. Do you remember Evangelion? You know what those mechs look like, right? So it's like a very feminine, skinny frame, right? And then rather than having like big, bulky, mechy parts, it keeps that slender, lanky frame. and then you go all in on the demon aspect, right? With like horns and eyes and different interesting locations. It is very easy to take that sort of feminine, sleek mecha design and adapt that to demons, and sort of remove some of the sci-fi elements. So if I were to introduce some demons in my show, they would probably be like acoustic versions of the Warframe mecha. Acoustic meaning not sci-fi in this case.
Mm-hmm. Let's
But what else?
say you didn't have a budget constraint or anything. You could get any voice actor, any physical actor, um,
I've already
makeup effects artist, costume designer. Is there anybody in mind in the whole cinema kind of realm that you would like to have work on this show with no budget constraints?
So I've already cast the entire show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got lists of names because, like, you give interviews for like 10 of these people. Maybe none of them are available, or maybe they've aged out because it's been so long since you've been shopping this show around. But looking through my list of cast members, I think I can afford all of these people. None of them are like super A-list actors. They're more character actors. Like, for example, whatchamacallit, where is he? Yeah, I don't think anybody would know any of these people unless they were religious TV watchers like I am. So yeah, to answer your question, I would keep it to actors that I think really fit the character and look like the character, rather than just sort of doing what they did for the new Borderlands movie, where they just hired Kevin Hart because he likes Borderlands.
More going for the talent rather than what do you call it? Star power.
More going for the look. And obviously you wouldn't hire them if they had no talent. But yeah, I would try to go for the look. Now, going for the look is hard because you have producers who work for a network who want you to be, diverse. So if you had in your mind that this character, now, of course, not all characters need to be a grab bag of, anything fits. Like, you certainly have some characters like this is their background. He's from Japan. His father was a samurai. You cannot have him be anything other than Japanese because that wouldn't make any freaking sense, right? So of course there's characters like that. But other than characters like that, they really want your characters to be very flexible. Whoever, auditions well for the role, that's the character. That's just sort of how the market is right now. So it's hard to cast for look at this point unless you're coming from a graphic novel or an anime or some adaptation where then they can match how they want the actor to look to your, media version of them. So when you're a blind script like mine is, pretty much anything goes. So, in my script, the lead character is of Irish descent, but that doesn't mean that he can't be, a dark-skinned Irish guy, or maybe he's not even from Ireland. Maybe he's from some other random country, because the fact of the matter is, at no point in my show is he ever in Ireland, or does he do or say anything even remotely Irish. So really, whoever they get, right? Now, it wouldn't make sense if he's got a super Irish name and they, get somebody who is clearly not Irish. So that's why they've changed his name too. Pretty much nothing is concrete when it comes to the world of TV. But quickly going back to your question, what do I do for fun, or outside of music? I do a lot of research, actually. I watch more TV and anime than God. Of course, it is all research for my show, and video games are good research. So yes, lots and lots and lots and lots of research. Research. That's all it is. It's research.
You got some wear and tear on that library card?
Library card? I think I still have a library card in some like old wallet in some box somewhere.
I'm sure you could probably get movies or books for your research. I mean, library card, most places are free, but
Skull, research was sarcastic.
All right, so I think we got a good, wholesome interview. Is there any topics that we have yet to discuss you would passionately love to talk about?
Um, hmm. Well, wouldn't mind talking a little bit about what's coming up for Dilemma and what I have on the horizon for my music.
You mentioned Frozen. Is that one of the things you'd like to talk about?
In a sense, yeah.
Can we see the
Um,
Night King bringing us winter?
is that a reference to Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one show I haven't watched. um, but whatchamacallit, yeah, so I have a lot of music on the horizon. You know, maybe if you're watching this interview, maybe you're familiar with my music, maybe you're not. Realistically, you're probably not, but you will be, or you should be. And I have a lot of stuff coming out soon. I've got a full-length LP called In Shadows, which I'm planning to release sometime in 2024. If that doesn't work out, it'll definitely be in the beginning of 2025. Then I've got an EP, I mentioned Frozen, coming after that. I have another EP called Becoming Alive, which I might drop sometime in between those two. I did a song called Disruptor, which I am going to be releasing for a competition called Electronic Saviors, which is actually something that Ground to Dust has been a part of previously, and they're planning to be a part of again. It's this annual competition where all these industrial and industrial adjacent artists submit music, and whomever gets chosen for the compilation album, all the proceeds go to cancer research. So I think that's really nice. So I have a song that I'm going to pitch for that called Disruptor. And then I'm also a part of the Ninth Circle. Again, the collaborative process between all of the artists as part of Outer Darkness servers. I'm working on another secret solo project with another artist from Outer Darkness. More on that later. And yeah, it's a good time to be a Dilemma fan because there's a lot more on the horizon coming from me. And hopefully, when Dilemma starts to gain more traction, you will be able to type Dilemma in Spotify and not have to scroll through 700 other dilemmas. That is pretty much my goal in life at this point.
That's a good goal to have.
Yeah, and to meet
Is
Mrs.
there
Dilemma, but we'll get there.
is there a particular song that you would suggest people start with when it comes to your music, or you have such an eclectic
No,
um,
it's not
range
eclectic at
on
all.
the stuff you're
Um,
releasing that anything would just be different?
It's quite funny. Funnily is not a word. Quite humorously. There we go. Quite humorously, I describe my music as dark pop / electronic rock. My music
Hmm.
does tend to quite literally break down into some songs are dark pop, some songs are electronic rock. So you can't get a perfect sense of what my music is like from just one song. But if you did
Hmm.
want to hear one song, I would highly recommend checking out Celestial Body, which comes out in 2 days, streaming everywhere. And you could also hear it on my website. There's a lyric video on TikTok. Um, that song is essentially synth pop with a little bit of a darker vibe to it. Not so dark that I would say it's dark pop. But yeah, I would say that's definitely the song to start with. And if you like that, you can expand from there.
Bet. Is there? I mean, you've kind of done a few of these with the plugins already with your website and TikTok, but is there anything else that you would like to plug in for the viewers?
Other than Outer Darkness Records itself, I think I covered everything. Beneath this video, I'll probably provide a link tree so you can access all of my socials and my website and stuff. But yeah, that's all the plugin I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this interview. It's been super fun. This is Skull with Old Skull Sound.
And Alex with Dilemma.
Yes! We will see you next time.
Have a good night, everyone, or good morning, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, true. Different time zones.
Yeah.